Hi, my name is Diane Schuster, and you're watching one of a series of videos that demonstrate the capabilities of COZYROC SSIS Plus, which is a software suite of tasks and components for SQL Server integration services. These demonstrations were built using SQL Server Integration Services 2012. The COZYROC tasks and components are available for SQL Server Integration Services 2005, 2008, 2008 R2, 2012, and 2014 in both 32-bit and 64-bit editions. For more information, please visit www.cozyroc.com. In this video, we're going to talk about the Netsuite destination component, which you can use to integrate or migrate data to the Netsuite service. This component comes in a package of tasks and components called SSIS Plus that complements the standard SSIS. In COZYROC's SSIS Plus product, we provide source and destination components for Netsuite, which support both 32-bit and 64-bit modes. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how easy it is to create contacts in Netsuite and then update fields in those contact records. Now I'll go through the steps to set up a package to create contact records in Netsuite. I'll be using Excel as the source. First, I'll set up the connection manager. So we go to New Connection, and then I choose Excel Plus, which is a COZYROC connection manager, and we'll choose the file that contains the source for our contact records. We test the connection, and it's good. Now I'll set up the connection manager for Netsuite. So I scroll down until I find the Netsuite connection manager from COZYROC, and I enter my username and the password, and I paste in my account ID, and I test the connection, and it's good. I'll drag the Excel Source Plus component from COZYROC onto the canvas, and I'll change its name. I go in to edit it. I select the Excel Plus connection manager that I just set up, and here I select the worksheet that contains the data for our contact records. I'm going to be creating 6 new contacts, and I intentionally introduced an error in the 6th record so that you could see how this component can help you find the records that have errors. I'll take a quick look at the columns, and we're done configuring the source component. Now I drag the Netsuite destination component onto the canvas, and I change the name. And I'll go in to configure it, and I select the connection manager that I previously set up, and the action is create. And under Object, I select Contact. Now we'll close that component, and we'll connect the arrows between the source and destination components. And we need to select the input, and we choose Contact. Now we go in to finish configuring the destination component. And we take a look at the mapping, and there's nothing that we need to do here. And now we go to Error Output, and as I mentioned, I'm going to show you how to determine which records had errors. So we changed this from Fail Component on Error to Redirect Row. Because I'm going to use a different Excel file to receive the error information, I need to set up another Excel Plus Connection Manager. And I go select the file, and I test the connection, and it's good. Now I drag the Excel Destination Plus component onto the canvas, and I'll change the name. And I connect the red arrow from the Netsuite destination component, and I just close this. And I'll go back in to configure it now, and I select the connection manager that I just finished setting up, and I select the correct worksheet within that Excel file. We'll take a quick look at the columns, and there you can see that it's added 4 columns to provide us with information about the records that were created, as well as any errors. Now I'll save the package. and we'll execute it. And it's successful, so we'll stop debugging. And we'll go take a look at the execution results, and everything looks good. Here's a spreadsheet to which I directed the errors. It also directs the results here of all of the records that it created or attempted to create, not just the records that had errors. And the error code of -1 means that these records had no errors. The other error code of 473 means that there was an error in that record, and here's the description of the error. And while we're here, I want to point out the ID. Now, this is the ID that was generated by NetSuite when we created these records, and we'll need this ID to update these records in the next part of the demo. Now we'll take a look at the new contact records that we just created in NetSuite, and there you see the 5 that had no errors. Now I'm going to show you how to configure a package to make updates to records in NetSuite. And I'm going to be updating the 5 records that we just created. Here's the data that I'm going to use to update the contacts. I'm just changing the fax number to have a 2 at the end. And here are those IDs again. They're going to be used to identify which records to update. I've already set up both of the connection managers we'll be using. So I start by dragging the Excel Source Plus component onto the canvas. And again, this is where our data will be coming from for the updates. And now I'll go in to edit that. And I choose the connection manager for Excel Plus. And I'll choose the correct worksheet. And there's the data. And now we go take a look at the columns. And we're done configuring that. Now I drag the NetSuite destination component onto the canvas. And I'll change the name. And I go in to edit it, and I choose the connection manager for NetSuite. And now I change the action to update, and I choose the object, which again is contact. And now I exit, and I'll connect the arrow so the data is feeding in. And I choose the input, and for that I choose contact. Now I open the component up again, and I go take a look at the mappings. And everything is mapped except for the most important column, and that's the ID. To perform an update, we need to use the internal ID that was generated by NetSuite when we created the contacts. So I map ID to internal ID. Now I'll save the package, and I'll execute it. And it completed successfully, so I'll stop debugging. Now we'll take a look at the results of the update in NetSuite, and there you can see all of the fax numbers end in 2. In summary, I have shown how easy it is to integrate or migrate data to the NetSuite service. First, I showed you how to create contact records in NetSuite, and then I showed you how to update those contacts. This component comes in a package of tasks and components called SSIS Plus that complements the standard SSIS. And that concludes this demo.